Hello, everyone. Welcome to another scintillating conversation. This is the Harbour Street Review, and this is our special session. We call it our special section. We call it the CEO Spotlight. And today I have an amazing individual. Most of you are probably going to know who he is already from his seeing come up on screen. But with me today is Mr. David Mullings, who is the founder and chairman of Blue Mahoe Holdings, Inc., which is a private company, a private investment company based in Florida, in the US. And it is a company that manages equities, private equity. It's a company that has interest in a diversified set of businesses. You're looking at real estate, asset management, private credit, media and apparel, I know, is really big for them. And also their main target is really the Caribbean. So Blue Mahoe Capital is actually an impact investing firm, and we're going to actually ask David to tell us a little bit more about that. The mission, we know, is really to give retail investors in the diaspora access to Caribbean markets and to investments that are in the Caribbean. So that's really Blue Mahoe Capital. David is going to tell us a lot more about it, but just let me tell you a few things about David. Number one, David is a pioneer. David is literally on the frontier doing things that has never been done. And you're going to see that through this conversation. He is a graduate of Miami University and the Herbert School of Business, and always representing, always representing. And he also serves on the board of directors for the Institute of Caribbean Studies in Washington, D.C. And he's a very active Miami U alumni. So we'll get to hear a little bit more about his activities in that. So David, over to you. Blue Mahoe Capital, right? Can you just give us the essential rundown of Blue Mahoe Capital, its founding, the mission, and also why that mission?
Well, I think it's important that we explain the different entities, right? And first of all, thank you very much for having me. And you've been talking to me for a long time about this interview, so I'm happy to finally grant it now that we've gotten through the SEC qualification process. I'm freer to speak. It's important for people to understand the entities that exist versus the brand. People see brands, so they've seen this Blue Mahoe Capital branded. Now I've started to roll out Blue Mahoe Holdings.
Yes.
But there are actually multiple entities. So we think about what I originally started with. I was working with a hedge fund, a long bias, black-owned hedge fund that only invested in US equities. And I was trying to convince him to go and invest in the Jamaican stock market. I felt like there were a number of undervalued companies in the region listed on the JSE and using the same exact approach to building out our portfolio in a hedge fund. On the US equity side, we could do the same for the Caribbean side. And what Nolan Langford, my boss, said was, I don't know those companies, I don't know the culture. I'm Black American. You should go and do it. And it happened to be something that I'd spoken about 10 years ago, January 2014, when I was asked by the Jamaica Stock Exchange to present on the idea of how to get people in the diaspora to invest in Jamaica, not just send more remittances. And what I had pitched was what I felt would be needed to be done to get someone like me to invest. It was never for me to launch it. I was trying to tell the people in the room what they needed to do. And
so your objective wasn't to create Blue Mahoe Capital?
No, I'd worked with Richard Powell Jr. at his second firm, RMP Group. So he has AP Capital, the large private equity firm. He created RMP almost as a family office to do smaller deals, brought me in as one of the business development team members to work with him. So this was every phone call, every meeting. You literally get to shadow somebody, and a year and a half later, he wrote me a check to launch. At the time, Keystone Augusta was a group that I created with my brother, and we put together a board. We raised 770,000 US, mainly out of the Caribbean, to invest in the US. We wanted to give Caribbean investors, starting initially with high net worth, so accredited investors and pension funds, access to lower middle market private equity deals for companies that would be minority business enterprise certified and selling into Fortune 500 firms. So we raised some money from some well-known Jamaicans, some well-known Bajans, and some US money So that was always what I wanted to do. And then we wanted to list that whole thing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange as a Berkshire Hathaway. So I wanted to eventually give retail investors access to opportunities that they would never see. So that was the idea. Jamaica Stock Exchange comes to me, having been on the Jamaica Diaspora Advisory Board as the first future leaders rep in the USA. I served under Prime Minister Bruce Golding. And so they said, well, you work in finance, and I worked in Jamaica. I had worked 3 times at Jamaica National Building Society, now JN Group. I was on the business development teams. I designed investment products, savings, mortgages. I designed the high yield savings account for the US, Canada, and UK. So I know this. I know to get to retail investors. I know to get to the diaspora, and I have financial service experience in both countries. And I served on the diaspora board. So it made sense that you would ask me to go and present and say, how do we get people like you to write a check to invest in Jamaica, not send more remittances, not more donations? And that's what I said. 4 years later, I'm talking to Joe Matalan. So this is Little Joe, for those who don't know the difference. Big Joe is the dad. Little Joe is actually the taller one. And that's a Joe Matalan we all know. And Joe says to me in our meeting, hey, David, you have me looking at this stuff, putting my money abroad. Great, but whatever happened to that idea that you pitched us at the stock exchange conference? And I was telling you what to do. It's not me to launch it. And he says, no, but you are the perfect person. You are down here all the time. We know you. We trust you. You worked in finance in Jamaica, and you worked in finance in the US, and the diaspora knows and trusts you. You should launch it, and we'll back you. And that's all I need to hear is, okay, you're going to support me? Great. And so I spent the next 1.5 years with Joe Matalan and Vikram Demon coming up with the name, Blue Mahoe, coming up with the investment strategy, the 5-year plan, got introduced to lawyers. So we initially started simply. In my opinion, coming from the tech sector, right? My first company is with my brother in 2002. We actually launched a website 2002. The first company launch is October 2001, during our MBA, the first semester of our MBA at the University of Miami. So we come from a tech startup idea where you need to start small, test it, and then
build your MVP,
get product market fit, and then scale. So in my head, you start with a friends and family round, which is essentially a seed round. Then you want to raise the next round. I would even call it pre-seed as a friends and family. Then the seed round is true friends and family. Then you do a Series A to some extent, and then you scale from there. But you need to get to product market fit. So we set up an LLC. We set up Blue Mahoe Partners, LLC in Florida. It's my money, my brother, mom, dad, and 2 friends. One Jamaican, one not Jamaican. Actually, a guy that's big in real estate. And we launched with $15,000. Let's go and invest in the Jamaican stock market. We want to invest in one company and see how hard or easy it is to open an investment account in Jamaica. So I went to JN Fund Managers, and at the time he needed 2 people to sign 2 letters of reference. So Earl Jarrett is one of my letters of reference, and then the head at the time of JN Fund Managers signs. So we opened the account at JN Fund Managers, wire the money, convert it, and we bought into Cygnus Credit Investments IPO. And I bought that one because Beresford Gray, someone I had known for the years that I had been working on Keystone. He was the only person in Jamaica who actually understood what I was trying to build with the idea of listening on the stock market. So once Beres went off to the Cygnus, I was going to support him because I trust management, invest in what you know. I understand private credit, and I trust that management to grow the business for the long term. We did really well. And I said to Dad, well, it's time to now move this to the next phase. Let's create Blue Mahoe Partners Inc. So we created a new vehicle, a Delaware C Corp that's owned by the LLC. So we kept that LLC. Right. I always believe in holding company. So you keep the holding company, you create a C Corp now, and the C Corp can now raise capital onto the balance sheet from friends and family. I mean, raise $250,000 from friends and family via a convertible note. So it's not even technically whether it's debt or equity. It can become equity. We know long-term goal being that we want to get listed on the NASDAQ, knowing we want to create a vehicle that gives retail investors access to investments in the Caribbean. That's really exciting. You have a falling out with some of the people that are partners. We still own the Blue Mahoe name, so I end up creating a separate vehicle, Blue Mahoe Capital Partners Inc. And Blue Mahoe Inc. That is Blue Mahoe Partners. Just we don't need it anymore. And it's a great lesson, again, but because I had the holding company, which always had control of the name and control ultimately of the vision, I can switch as needed. And so Blue Mahoe Capital Partners Inc. has been the operating company for the last 5 years. That is not the company going public. Right? People really don't understand. So we've done investments through Blue Mahoe Capital. We have Blue Mahoe Finance, which is our private credit vehicle. That's what did the deal with Sprint and did the deal with Mapex. We have Blue Mahoe Property Fund, which is a real estate deal here in the US. So those are separate entities. And then I renamed the original Blue Mahoe vehicle to Blue Mahoe Holdings and then convert it to a C Corp. So now we have a holding company based on Michael Leachin's Portland Holdings Inc. So I have Blue Mahoe Holdings Inc. So the first original company is now Blue Mahoe Holdings. So that's there. We had an entity called Blue Mahoe Capital Management LLC. It was supposed to be an asset management firm. Again, we want to give retail investors access. Yeah. But if we're giving them access, it means that we can give accredited investors and pension funds and endowment funds access as well. They don't want a publicly traded vehicle, certainly on the US side. So we had an asset management business that was intended to take capital from pension funds in the US to invest in the Jamaican markets. So we went and set up a hedge fund. And then the world goes to hell in a handbasket. And the pension fund says, man,
we're talking 2020.
Yeah, this is unfortunately, this was actually during COVID. So it's not, this is after 2020, wow. Right? This is now, so this is 3 years old. So this is 2021, right? Everybody
pretty much the height.
Right. Everybody thought COVID was going to blow over. So March 2020 is actually not when the world goes.
It's a blip when you look at it in comparison to really the effect over the 2020 to 2022 period.
Exactly. And I think actually you go 2020 to 2023 because we just started finally coming out and people say, oh, we can go back to work. We can go back to office. We can travel again. Events are starting back up. The conferences I used to go to didn't happen in 2020, 2021 or 2022.
Okay.
So we have a pension fund that had approached us that said, hey, we want to invest in the Caribbean market. The guy is Jamaican that manages a pension fund. They're international equities. We'll give you 40 million US to launch. And we don't mind being the only person in the hedge fund. Set it up. And we spend 6 months and $75,000 cash to set up the fund and everything. And then when it's time to now finally sign the paperwork and write the check, guess what? Our public US equities are down 30%. We don't even have time to look at anything again. I'm so sorry, David. Oh, well, I guess we're going to just hang on to the hedge fund and keep paying the fees every year to keep it alive. We now come around finally this year to apply. We're going to submit to the SEC to qualify an offering to take something public. Do we take Blue Mahoe Capital Partners Inc., the vehicle public via the Reg CF, and spend money to do an audit going back 4 or 5 years? Or do we look at what is the simplest path? Oh, simplest path. We have Blue Mahoe Capital Management LLC. Let's rename that Blue Mahoe Capital Inc., because it's still a Delaware entity with 0 debt, 0 assets. That means it's easy. I need to get to 5 million in stockholders' equity to qualify the list on NASDAQ. So it's cheaper and faster to use the aged vehicle. And if the vehicle is 2 years or older, when you're direct listing, it has no need to show any income. It's wild how easy it is to get things. Yeah, people really don't understand how easy it is to get listed on a major stock exchange.
That is something I really want for you to somewhat demystify for us. The process of really listing in the US, because I know that there are companies out here with ambitions to list, and a lot of them are facing different challenges. For some of them, it's the price that they need to get to. For some of them, it's the ROA that they need to get to. So you having gone through some of this process and being pretty close, you would have, I mentioned you being a pioneer, you would have done the first Reg CF that actually allows diaspora people to reinvest effectively outside of the US into the Caribbean.
Right. And so I love that this I'm a pioneer. I want to be careful about that word. To me is not pioneering. The only thing pioneering about what I'm doing is who I'm targeting for the capital and then where I'm investing. Right. I'm not doing anything that's never been done before. Reg CFs and Reg A's under the Jobs Act are normal. In fact, The entire thing we're doing with Blue Mahoe Capital is based on what somebody else already did to raise money to launch a vehicle in the US focused on investing in underrepresented founders in the United States. They just weren't planning to go public. So they stuck to raising the 5 million into an entity that was aged, that had no operating history. So it was at least 2 years old, and they went and did it. And I was like, oh, well, I can do the same thing. Right? We reach out to NASDAQ. NASDAQ explains to us exactly, here's the documentation, here are the ways to direct list. Don't do a SPAC. SPACs are out of favor, as we all know. And of course, a SPAC needs to know, well, it can know what it's going to buy, and it's really going after one thing. I already know what I want to buy. So a SPAC can't work. We would already literally be breaking the rules. And I would own 20% of the SPAC anyway. That doesn't serve my purpose. We could do a traditional IPO, filing an S1, which is a pain, but more importantly, with an S1, you can't generally solicit, and you have to shut up. There's a quiet period. Anybody that knows me knows that I like to talk, and I have a marketing degree. I have literally focused on international business and marketing for my MBA. I want to market to retail investors. So an IPO, a traditional IPO, doesn't work for us. So when you look at what companies like Roblox and Spotify did, they did a direct listing. In Jamaica, you can think about proven listing by introduction. It's the same thing. So a direct listing is the easiest path to go public, other than a reverse merger. Reverse mergers are also out of favor. But on top of that, if you do a reverse merger, you have an extra period of scrutiny by the regulators. I don't need the extra period then. And you reverse merger into a company that you don't know all the shareholders. You don't know where all the bodies are buried. So you might end up having something blow up on you, or they sue you. So it is better to have a clean vehicle where I control all the investors from day one.
So for context, David, just to help most of the locals understand, is a reverse merger similar to like a buyout, like would have happened with Siboney and then changing the name?
So those are reverse mergers. Those technically aren't even buyouts. And I'm not sure why we would use the term as a buyout, because it's not an operating business. So you reverse merge into a public company. It's a public shell. So you find a public company that's already trading but not doing business. You merge a private business into that. That is called a reverse merger.
Thank you, because that term is not used here. So
I know, which is, to me, is weird. That's like a standard term in the developed world. So the US, Canada, UK is going to say that you're going to do that, right? A SPAC is a special purpose acquisition vehicle. So you take something public knowing you're going to look for a company. You have up to 2 years to go and identify it and then effect a merger. It's a private company that's going to reverse merger into your SPAC. It's actually the same thing. It's just it's a different way of executing the same thing. We couldn't do the SPAC, and we weren't interested in the reverse merger option. We're not doing a traditional IPO because there's a quiet period. And then essentially one day an investment bankers and underwriters set your price. Not interested. NASDAQ said, do a direct listing. Here are the different ways to do a direct listing and to qualify to list on one of our 3 markets. They have 3 different levels with NASDAQ. I said, here's a baby one. You can list on here, still a big market, the NASDAQ capital market. 4 ways, pick one. 2 of them said that if the company is at least 2 years old, here are the easy rules for you to meet. Pay a fee, qualify, list. Okay.
Works.
Great. So then we can work backwards from that. And that's all we did. We just looked at who has successfully executed it before and then do it and go after our market. Now we're investing outside. Most people would raise the money to invest in America. And they're certainly not going after Caribbean Americans, the diaspora. So we're going after a market that's completely overlooked to invest in an area that is also overlooked.
Yes.
So yes, there are pioneers in that sense, but I was told that pioneers are the ones who have the arrows in their back. I don't like arrows in my back.
That's right. So you follow you follow on the Honorable Leachin's principle, which is you find somebody who has the recipe, you learn the recipe, and you follow it without changing it.
Yeah, man. So as Mike said, identify the role model, get the recipe, don't change the recipe. You can only change the recipe when you exceed the role model. No problem. So of course, Mike is really close. He's our main advisor to the company. In fact, if you go on the Edgar database, which is what SEC has, and you look at our offering statement, you will see me, then the board of directors, and then you will see advisors. And you see Mike as the first one. Michael Leachin is our first advisor listed in our filings. So it's important. But the key thing is when I sat down with Mike last November, he made one slight change that completely adjusted the trajectory of what we're doing. And he said, what if Berkshire Hathaway had owned Blackstone? And I said, okay, Blackstone before they sold their 40+% of BlackRock. Because we care a lot about retail investors. Mike was able to successfully build a mutual fund company in Canada.
Yeah.
Can we do the same? Who would we target? What funds would we launch? Oh, well, where have I worked? We can launch some of those funds. Who is in our orbit? We could launch some of those funds. So Blue Mahoe Capital Inc. really only does two things. Is doing real estate, which we're going to do that through two funds. And then we're going to have an asset management business. And we're going to be talking more about that soon. So we know exactly the first 4 funds that we're going to launch.
Okay. So I was actually going to ask you about that because I actually read the Edgar filing and I realized that truly there's a undertone of asset management there. I see what the first vehicle is, and so I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit more about that. So Blue Mahoe really is enabling the diaspora to invest in the Caribbean. And the first vehicle is through that real estate company where you're doing those developments in Old Harbour. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what the return profile of that is going to look like?
Well, so I love that you asked that one. So the first thing is that we don't want to look at return profiles on an individual investment basis. We invest in from our balance sheet. So as always, my lawyer hate when I say this. We have three law firms that work with us. The main one doesn't like when I say this, but I keep saying it. My ultimate goal is to build a Berkshire Hathaway. So we start from there. That gives an idea of how we're investing, how long-term we're thinking, right? Blue Mahoe Capital is not yet a Berkshire Hathaway, though. And most people don't even understand what it does. Berkshire owns a company called Clayton Homes. Clayton Homes does affordable housing in the US. That's manufactured housing, aka trailer houses. A lot of people don't realize that. So it makes sense that Blue Mahoe Capital would start with real estate. I actually didn't want to do real estate. I was focused on private credit, private equity, and public equity.
The things you know.
Yeah, the things I know. Circle of competence, Warren Buffett once again.
Yes.
And I was adamant not to do real estate. One of our key investors, Joy the Head, reached out to me last July to talk to me about a project in Jamaica that she's investing in. So she calls her about Suncoast out in St. Thomas. David, I am buying a house. Blue Mahoe need to look at this. I know Suncoast. I played on the Jamaica paintball team that was always out there at David Wanking's property. And I said, but I know out there. Let me take a look. The same day, I get a call in the afternoon by somebody else that says, hey, I needed to take a look at this Suncoast thing. My mentee is building it. His name is Kevin Fritz. He's going to give you a call. Can I give him a number? So in one day, I end up getting 3 phone calls about the same property. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the universe saying, you need to take a look. Fine, let's consider where you're going. I don't know if you're going to do it, but I'm willing to at least hear you out. We then end up talking with 2 of our existing investors, 2 of our largest investors, say, hey, I consider this real estate thing. I don't know. I don't want to do real estate because real estate is not liquid. I can't get rid of it quickly. It just sit on my for hold it. I'm just not interested, and I don't like the idea of development risk. It's not in my circle of competency. My brother and my parents invested in real estate. Not me. Stick to what I know. And then the investors say, well, we are building 701 bedrooms in Old Harbour. Here's the price point. Here's what it's going to cost to build them. Here's what the returns could look like. If you partner with us to provide the financing, would that help Blue Mahoe? And I said, fine, I'll consider it. So we go on our quarterly investor call in July to tell them, this is now Saturday, we are considering investing in real estate. Everybody jumping. I was like, what is this? Sunday morning, somebody called me, David. It's one of our investors. Can I put $10,000 in a new real estate fund? And I said, I didn't say we're launching a real estate fund. I said, we're considering investing in real estate. Yeah, man. But once you consider it, you're going to end up doing it. So I want to get in first. Can I send you 10 grand tomorrow? It's like, no, but even if I announced it yesterday, we don't have the legal paperwork, we don't have the company for you to put it into the vehicle. Okay, no problem, no problem. Can I put it in Blue Mahoe Capital's bank account and you move it over when the time comes? And I say, no, I can't commingle funds. I can't do that. Put it in a CD for 3 months and then we can revisit. So immediately within 12 hours, we have people committing capital just because they say real estate in Jamaica. Okay, let's talk some more. That week, we then get 5 phone calls on our 1-800 number. Here, I keep telling everybody no, because I say, I hear you're doing real estate. No, we're considering it. No, we're considering it. No. Final guy calls me and says, I'm so-and-so out of New Jersey. I heard you're doing real estate. I would like to invest. I've been waiting for Blue Mahoe to finally do real estate and give us in the diaspora access. I said, no. I never said we're definitely doing it. We're considering, but I don't know. And the guy says, well, why wouldn't you? I said, because you don't need me to invest in real estate in Jamaica. You can just buy one of the 5 REITs that are listed down there. You literally can just buy a KP REIT. You buy Stanley Motta. You don't need me. And the guy said, all right, so hold on. Let me get this clear, Mr. Mullings. You were the guy that went on Bloomberg and said that it's really hard to open an investment account in Jamaica. 2 letters of reference, 5 pieces of paperwork, and you have to fly down and give a wet signature. I said, yes. And I said, and you are telling me that for me to invest in real estate in Jamaica, you want me to open an investment account and buy shares of publicly traded REITs? And then I went quiet because I realized it catch me there.
Yes.
He's like, your job with Blue Mahoe Capital, as you have said, is to make it easy for people like me to invest back into Jamaica and the Caribbean. But this is not making it easy. Why wouldn't you just solve my problem for me? I'm not the only one that would want this. And I said, sir, you're right. We will launch it. We're going to be in touch. That was the eye-opening moment when I kept saying, just buy the REIT. Oh, but you have to open the blasted account and it's a pain to open it. We are supposed to solve that problem and remove the pain point. So now we know there's a pain point. Now we know what customers really want. They want access to real estate in Jamaica. And they have no easy way to do it.
True.
So we said, all right, that was it. And we'll go back to the guys. I said, great. How much you need to build the 700 houses? I said, well, based on the numbers, it's going to cost 17.5 million US. And I was like, okay, well, I only need to raise 5 million to go public. And I need one thing I can sell that is easy to understand. Right? Explaining to people going to private credit can be a little complicated. Explaining private equity, geez, don't even start. Public equities, I can't even do that using a Reg CF. So that's off the table. Real estate is really easy to explain to people. In fact, I think it's a little too easy. Everybody thinks it's easier than it really is, but real estate. And in fact, the SEC loves when you're doing that because people can see it, feel it, touch it. It's very hard for you to commit fraud with real estate. I mean, you can call your cousin and drive by and see if it's even real. Right? If the market go down, you hold on to it for a few years and you rent it in the meantime. So there's actually limited downside risk, but there's a liquidity problem. And that's how I look at it. I like liquidity. And so we said, all right, they said, how much can you do with 5 million? We said, we can build 200 houses. Okay, deal. Let's sign up and we will become your financial partner for the 1-bedrooms. And so that's how we end up getting into doing affordable housing in the Caribbean, starting in Jamaica. Somebody gets wind of that and sets up a meeting for me via Zoom in New York with the Barbados consulate, who then sets up a trip. I got to Barbados December 1st through 3rd of last year, 2023, and we meet with the Minister of Lands and Housing, and they give us a tour and says, here's our land bank, here's what we're already building, here's our HOPE program. We need more money and we can build more houses, 2- and 3-bedroom for Bajans. And I said, okay, we're in.
So there are a few things that would have come out of that. I would have realized that oftentimes David gives people good ideas and ultimately they come back and tell David to implement the ideas.
Yes. Which is, I don't know. I need to stop giving people ideas.
Because you're going to end up with more to do. But ultimately, this actually feeds into your initial vision for Blue Mahoe Holdings and for Blue Mahoe Capital by extension. So that's actually a good thing. And I'm happy that you would have clarified, especially here, and I've heard you done it on other forums as well, that in this case, it is not David Mullings and David Mullings' core team that is going to be developing real estate, because that is not your core competence.
No, not at all.
Blue Mahoe Capital is doing what Blue Mahoe Capital knows to do, which is arrange financing, create vehicles to allow persons to get access to the different investment vehicles. I'm very happy that you clarified.
Exactly.
You
you have to
clarified
think
that.
about it this way, right? If you want to get into a field, you should find someone that's already good at what they do, and then help them. I don't want to become a real estate development company. I have no interest in that. Somebody's already successfully doing it. Giving them more cash, as in putting more gas in their tank,
Yes.
allows them to do that even better at scale. I want to be the person that can provide scale to anybody doing business in the region that we understand, we trust the people, and they have skin in the game as well. And of course, it has to be a strong long-term growth industry.
Yes.
But again, Michael Leachin's 5 laws of wealth creation, which come from Warren Buffett. We don't need to invest in everything. We don't need to become experts on everything. Find the experts. We can either buy the company or put capital into the company. We are targeting a 15% ROIC, return on invested capital. A lot of people talk about ROI and ROE. I'm not looking at just return on investment. I'm not looking at just return on equity. We don't have just equity capital. We will have the ability to raise debt. So I want return on invested capital. We are targeting a 15% return per year. If we do that, we double the money in 5 years. So that's our internal target, is to be able to just hit 15% or higher for return on invested capital. So that gives it a benchmark for what we would be looking at when providing capital to these guys on the housing side, for example, in Old Harbour and elsewhere, because we're going to announce in June that we're doing more houses in Jamaica, because a few people have realized what was happening and they called and said, hey, we want to build some over here, or I have land, can you partner with us and get it done? And the answer is yes. Why not? You have a track record, so yes.
Okay. Again, it's really good to see where the focus is. I'm happy because persons tend to hear development and think, oh, it's a new development company. This is not what Blue Mahoe Capital is. So given that what your true mode of operation is really financing these different types of asset classes and then getting the persons who are the experts to execute against their vision, achieving the scale. I think that also minimizes the risk to Blue Mahoe Capital, because you are dealing with subject matter experts and really you are still sticking to your core competence.
Yeah.
So
the best way to think of it is Cygnus Real Estate Finance.
Yes. So all right, so I'm glad you mentioned no Cygnus, because you also spoke about Beresford earlier and his expertise in private credit. So the question is Blue Mahoe Capital looking at other asset classes or other areas that they can look to develop, areas that they have a basic or have a fundamental understanding of? I could probably say private credit, private equity.
So we mentioned private credit in the offering memorandum, and we talk about real estate. The lawyers don't want me to talk about anything outside of those two things that's in the memorandum. But I can talk about Blue Mahoe Holdings doing stuff. On the private credit side, yes, we will be doing a whole lot more private credit. And we are in the middle of negotiating an MOU, a strategic partnership with a company in the region. I can't name them as yet. They will announce when the time is right. But our goal is to be a partner with existing entities in the Caribbean that already do private credit. We don't want to enter regions on our own. Just no point. Let's partner with somebody. And so we've been approached, and we will get that done shortly and go from there, because we can raise money from a market that they can't raise from, right? Think about this. They cannot come to the US and raise from retail investors. Most of the guys in the Caribbean can come here and talk to pension funds and talk to large asset managers, the accredited world, an institutional world. That's fine. Even accredited individuals and single family offices, they don't have those relationships and they don't know how to do that. We can do that. We can go to retail and we can go to single family offices and high net worth individuals. So we are the best strategic partner. We don't compete for money. We bring new money to the table to partner with someone on the private credit side. So that will happen there. On the public equities and on the private equity side, I can't say here now because it's going to be out in the papers any day now. Yes, Blue Mahoe Capital is launching multiple funds. 2 of them will be listed in Jamaica on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
That
We
is
talked about doing
welcomed
it.
news.
Yeah. We talked about doing an exchange traded fund when I was on Bloomberg, but I did say that my preference was the Berkshire Hathaway way. Well, what did it stop us from doing a fund in Jamaica? So think about this. Blue Mahoe Capital Partners, Inc. has been investing in the Jamaican stock market, main market, and junior market via both NCB cap markets and JN fund managers. Okay, well, what happens when we pool all of those assets, stick it under one new vehicle? Blue Mahoe Capital Appreciation is actually named after the fund I used to work at, Left Brain Capital Appreciation, using the exact same strategy of Left Brain, where I was investor relations manager. And then listing that in the Caribbean to give retail investors in the Caribbean access to a portfolio of no more than 20 high-quality Caribbean companies and 10 US companies. Oh, well, that kind of looks like maybe Jamaican equities, but with a US
More like
component.
more like
QWI
QWI.
investments. Yeah. Exactly. But with one key difference. We prefer the idea of an actively managed exchange traded fund, and we are not charging any performance fees. So we charge a 1% asset management fee per year. That's it. This is not 220, 225, or any of those crazy things. 1% of AUM. That's it.
And then let me ask, would this fund have distributions of any kind?
Well, it is called capital appreciation. So the goal is for us to reinvest the dividends, not to pay out dividends. If the pension funds that are backing us to start require that we pay out the dividends, then we'll just have to go under that. But when I look at Sagicor Select F, Select M, they pay out dividends. We would want to push for people to do a dividend reinvestment plan. So ultimately, they get to decide. So yes, we would pay out dividends. I would encourage people to have a dividend reinvestment plan.
Okay, that's wonderful. So
give the market what they want. That's where I read. Give the market what they want. So if the pension funds require dividends, then
that was the third theme that I was picking up. So you talk to these markets and you realize, oh, I might want to have a portfolio of quality stocks in the Caribbean to create a Jamaican version of a Berkshire Hathaway. But when I talk to my investors, they're more excited about a private credit opportunity or a venture opportunity or a real estate opportunity, a financing opportunity.
The question that other people fail to ask, and Adam Stewart said this very well though, right? Adam says, find out what your customers want, give it to them, and in so doing exceed expectations. So one of the most important questions I learned to ask when I was investor relations for the hedge fund or working with Jamaica National or working Richie Powell with the private equity was to ask people, what would it take for you to write me a check? What exactly do you want me to do that would allow you to write a check? So I need to know what is the structure. So what is the vehicle? Is it a fund that's charging 220 or not? Is it public or not? Right. So I need to know what is the structure. What is it investing in? What is the asset class? And does it need to pay dividends? Where would you want me to list it? And so those are and then of course, okay, what does a team need to look like? Because they don't just give money. They usually have 5 things that they're looking at, a minimum, to then write in the check. So tell me what you want. I will evaluate it and decide, does it fit into my long-term vision of my business giving access? The whole point of what Blue Mahoe Capital is focused on is giving investors access to opportunities that they would never normally see. Okay, well, if you're in Jamaica or Trinidad or Barbados right now and you want to buy NVIDIA, how hard or easy is that? You want to buy Apple, how hard or easy is that? Okay, maybe somebody should make it easy for them.
So now that brings you pretty much full circle to the initial partnership that you'd have started, where you were looking to allow persons from here to get access. So I'm seeing that theme of access. So it's both ways. It's access both ways effectively. So you're allowing diaspora to come back to the the Caribbean region, and you're allowing the Caribbean to access these developed markets.
Exactly. So the way Mike Alici explained, right? Mike actually talks a lot about why asset management is the best thing that he can launch from a business standpoint. So what he says is, number one, with asset management businesses, you have great operational and financial leverage. And number two is highly scalable. Right? We have a fixed cost of operating the team for the most part. We just scale AUM. You look at private equity hedge funds in the US. You look at the growth of the mutual fund industry in Canada when Mike started. It's low risk because the assets are off balance sheet. They're not on Blue Mahoe Capital's balance sheet. They're managing a fund off balance sheet. We have no receivables. I don't need to do the work and then wait to have zero accounts receivables.
Yes.
Zero. You pay me up front, I get paid. And then, of course, there's a high return on equity because we spend a little equity capital to hire the team, pay to set up the funds, and then we can scale that over time.
The profits that come out of that flow right to the bottom line.
And then the last one,
equity.
of course, is that after recovering your fixed costs, every dollar of revenue thereafter is literally 100% margin. That is why asset management businesses scale so quickly. So call it 1.2 million US dollars to hire a team and operate for a whole year. That team doesn't have to just invest in one thing, though. We can manage 3 funds, 4 funds. If you think about it logically, venture capital companies tend to launch 3 to 4 funds within 10 years.
Yes.
Not one. They have a skill set. They have a team. They go after that. It so happens that we've built out a team for real estate so we can scale up. But if we're going to do real estate, why only do real estate in the Caribbean? We already invested in real estate in the US. And you know why we did that? Because some pension funds in Jamaica came to me and said, hey, love what you plan to do at Blue Mahoe Capital and give the diaspora access to the Caribbean markets.
What about us?
Well, yeah, we don't need you for that. We don't need you to invest in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. What we need is to deploy our money abroad. And nobody's really giving us access to US real estate. The guys that have done it before have failed miserably. You actually lived there. You actually worked there. You went to school there. Can you give us access to US real estate? And I said, why would you ask the equities guy to go out and do real estate? That's not in my circle of competence. I said, that's easy, David. Just call your family office friends, ask them where they're investing in real estate. We vet 5 of them, and then we co-invest with them. So the first deal we did under the Blue Mahoe Property Fund, which is under Blue Mahoe Holdings, was to go and invest in a cold storage deal in Miami. We put 100,000 US in as an LP, and we now up 100% in 3 years. Okay,
that's an amazing return.
Yeah, let's call them and say, guys, we want to do stuff more. It really isn't that complicated, but you need access. You need access to the right people.
Yes.
Access to the right deals, access to capital. The capital is not our problem anymore. It's a matter of when do we want to launch each of these things, and then when do we give retail investors access? The pension funds can get access today. The retail investors want access. So that is what we are focused on, and we start with the Caribbean. That is not where Blue Mahoe Capital stops. We start with the Caribbean.
Thank you for saying that, because my immediate next question, David, is what is next for Blue Mahoe Capital?
I don't think people really take me literally. They don't understand. My goal is to build a Berkshire Hathaway.
So we're talking a significant business. So this is a commitment, effectively. This is going to be a lifelong mission.
I knew that. When I was 15, I wrote a 15-year plan, broke into blocks of 5 years based on what I wanted to do after age 50. I knew exactly what I wanted to do with my life. I've written my obituary. That's how I know what life to live, because I know what I need them to write about me. It's not that complicated. To me, it's not that complicated, right?
I share the view because I've done the same thing. I could send you my obituary and my will today. Because and
to me, it makes decision making so easy.
Very
because
easy.
I know what I want people to say about me when I'm gone. I know what legacy I want to have. So I'm not worried about what people say today or what people say when I'm gone. What is my legacy going to be? What are they going to say about me 100 years from now? Warren Buffett, unfortunately, is going to pass away in the next 20 years, probably in the next 10. And he knows this. Who in our generation, in the whole world, is trying to replace that? Why shouldn't I try?
Yes.
I've studied him forever. I happen to have a sponsor and a coach who has actually done it in Canada and in the Caribbean. But Mike is 73. I am 43. 30-year difference, 1951, 1981. Both born in January. If Mike tells me I can do it, who am I to tell myself I can't do it? Maybe I should actually listen to him
I
and
agree.
believe in myself.
I agree. So what's next for Blue Mahoe? We're getting bigger. We're going after that Berkshire Hathaway vision.
So, all right, I have a 10-step timeline that's been laid out. The Reg CF was only step 3.
Okay. Impressive. All right, so I have one last question. And you may have alluded to it, but is there any local market offering for local investors coming to us?
We're offering for what? Because we talked about a lot of stuff.
Yes, so I'm thinking primarily equities. I'm an equities guy as well. So anything along the lines of equity that would say allow local investors to get access to Blue Mahoe Capital.
We in discussions now. We've been approached by 2 investment banks in Jamaica to finally create a vehicle that initially would give the pension funds access to Blue Mahoe Capital, the overall vehicle that's going public on NASDAQ. And of course, the pension funds typically require that is listed within 18 months. So we'd want to list in Jamaica not long after the NASDAQ listed. So yes, a vehicle is being created in Jamaica that will give retail investors in Jamaica direct ownership into Blue Mahoe Capital Inc. that will be listed on NASDAQ. So we're not cross-listing the US entity on the stock exchange. We're creating a special purpose vehicle. So you think like Portland JSX, which gives retail investors access to what Portland Private Equity did through Caribbean Fund 2. We can create a special purpose vehicle in Jamaica that can take capital in, and then it owns only Blue Mahoe Capital US stock that's listed on the NASDAQ.
I love it. I love it. David, thank you so much. You have shared a lot of insight. I love the vision. I must say it really resonates with me. And it's something that I'm very happy. You would have said this initially, but we'd have been talking for a while now. And to see it come into fruition, because it is real now.
Yeah.
It's real. It's here. It's just a matter
But I would
of.
say it's here. It was always real. People just didn't believe it. Some people
Thank
thought, would think you're delusional. But if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be willing to be misunderstood for 10 years and be willing to look like a fool for 10 years, because you know what you've been working on and you know why you care about it. I am passionate about economic development in the Caribbean. I am passionate about turning a brain drain into a brain gain. I am passionate about diaspora direct investment instead of foreign direct investment. And nobody's going after those people. And it so happened that I worked in Jamaica designing products, financial products for the diaspora. I know this market. I know how to get to retail investors in the diaspora. Why wouldn't I use my skills, my knowledge, my network to bring capital back to my home country and my home region? Makes sense to me. It so happens at the time when I wanted to launch Jamaica, I had the best performing stock exchange in the whole world for 5 years. So it made it an easy sell to people. Now we are among the worst performing. You know what? It's an even easier sell. Because I get to show them, I show them what's on sale. I was like, guys, I can buy $1 worth of stock for 60 cents. It's great. I can walk around just picking up on the cheap. It's even easy.
And some of these companies have impressive moats. There is nobody coming to disrupt or dispatch them from their leading positions. So it's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah,
David, I'm excited.
I'm excited to teach people about value investing and moats. I can't wait. I'm more excited to do an AGM in Jamaica, Berkshire Hathaway style, and the AGM I'll do in the US, Berkshire Hathaway style. Because if we have 2 entities listed, I get to be chairman and do what Warren Buffett does, and I get to do it in Jamaica.
I'll definitely see you there. Definitely see you there. Thank you, David. So we have a closing segment for this show, right? It's 10 question, this or that.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go, but not necessarily rapid fire, but I be mindful of your time. So 1, country or city?
City.
City. Beach or river?
Beach.
Blue chip or growth stocks?
Growth stocks.
Residential or commercial real estate?
Commercial real estate.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, easy. I mean, literally.
I can't see that no, so that was a giveaway. Football or basketball?
Football. Real football, where you actually use your foot.
All right, next question. Man U or Liverpool?
Arsenal.
All right. So.
If I had to pick, though, I grew up in a Man United house with Eric Cantona popping him color. If I had to pick only those two.
No, but you can go outside. You can definitely go outside. And I like that. The loyalty transcends. Marvel or DC?
Marvel. Where's my Black Panther? Well, actually, you can just look over here. This is all Marvel.
Those are original comics?
Yeah, they're graded.
Wow.
So this is the first appearance of Spider-Man in the black suit, graded 9.6. Is the most expensive comic I have. This is Wolverine #4. This is Wolverine #1. I have a Wolverine #3 over here as well. I have Spawn #1. Yeah, I collect comics.
That's a I can see your experience in let's just say a circle of competence around assets extends well beyond the private credit.
I keep this one near me, right? Wakanda forever, because this is number 601 of 1,000.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you are now introducing, unfortunately at this point, but you're introducing our audience to another type of asset. And so I'm going to have to ask you to give me another 10 or 15-minute conversations at another time where we talk about.
No, let's continue right now. I am good enough. If you have time,
okay.
I have time.
Okay.
I have time.
All right, sure. All right. So let me close.
Yeah, all right. So since we're going to talk about that, since we already started giving you the collection, let's just start walking through some of the stuff that's here, right? So,
sure.
So this up here is Naruto in Nine Tails Chakram Road. That's 1 of 2,000. So that's 1 of 2,000. It's never been opened. You see this gold boot here?
Yes.
That's an autographed Usain Bolt shoe with a certificate of authenticity. And then this box in here is a pair of Usain Bolt shoes that are autographed with individual certificates of authenticity. Over here is number 530. My cousin gave me this. One of my largest investors is a golden gun, 24 karat plated, that breaks up into the individual pieces, the lighter, the pen, and so on, from the movie Golden Gun, James Bond. And I have a bottle of the Blackwell 007 rum that they did for No Time to Die that is unopened. So I think it's very important that people invest in assets that will go up in value. Over here, this little gorilla-looking thing. When we went on tour with Sean Paul, Real Vibes, many years ago, when you press it, it plays Get Busy. Sean made money licensing that was sold in Target, so I kept one to remind Sean about the power of our culture.
Yes.
And the way you can make money from intellectual property.
I'm glad you said it. That's the word I wanted out. I tell people tend to think my favorite asset class is equities. My favorite asset class is intellectual property. 100%. That is my favorite asset class. Yeah. And unfortunately, it is the one that I think Jamaicans are perhaps least educated about.
Well, all right, it's not a Jamaican thing. People in general are the least educated about intellectual property. I never thought about IP until I did a class in my MBA. This is at University of Miami, Herbert School of Business. And I never forgot one of the teachers was explaining to us that there are 3 types of business they can invest in broadly. And he starts with the first one. He says, the lowest type of business is a business that sells perishable goods. Mm-hmm. You buy you have the lettuce, you grow the lettuce, you take it to the market. If it's not sold within a certain time, it's going to spoil. If it's spoiled,
Investment
it
gone.
perishes, gone.
That is
Every single dollar is gone. He also put hotel rooms and airline seats in that category as perishable. When the plane takes off, you can't sell that seat again. When the night gone, you cannot resell that hotel room. They are perishable. Wow, I never thought about that. He says the next best thing you can invest in is durable goods. You go under the t-shirt don't sell for $30, you mark it down to 20, you mark it down to 10, you can at least recoup your original investment and make another t-shirt. So durable goods are better. And he says, but the best kind of business you can invest in is businesses that own intellectual property, IP. So me now, like the little know-it-all in class jump up, sir, you mean like Disney? And he says, Disney is the best example of a company that does all three. They own Mickey Mouse. That's the IP. They then make a Mickey Mouse t-shirt they can sell to you. And then they turn around and do a theme park that they come to for the day and a hotel you can stay at and a cruise ship you can go on. They're covering all three bases. Disney is the best kind of company you can invest in.
David,
it totally changed the way I look at business.
That's mind blowing. Even for me, that's mind blowing. And I tell you, most of the assets that I own and I've invested in heavily for myself are intellectual property.
Yeah.
I tell you about the Harbour Street Review. I have the copyright. I have everything for it. I have the trademark, everything. And those
I love
things,
you said that. This is the actual trademark. This is a trademark certificate for Blue Mahoe Capital. You can't see it because like that's
I can see it.
That's the actual trademark with the seal. This is it. This is worth something.
Yes. This is going to. I tell you, we're going to click this, and we are going to open an entirely new conversation just by this little segment that we're having.
To me is wide. I look at this. So look at this idea, right? We have these are cards here. These are Avengers collectible cards, both unopened. And then over here we have Star Wars and Mandalorian cards, unopened, still in the packaging. And then Nintendo, this is a Nintendo Lego set. This is a Lego set. That's not actual, there's a real Zappa back there, and that's a real actual working cartridge for Mario and Duck Hunt, to be honest. These are reminders to me of how important intellectual property are, right? Over here is all this Zelda stuff. This is an Ocarina of Time.
Yes, I see the blue Ocarina.
Right. This is an amiibo that you can buy. These are the books. So you created a video game, and then they were able to create books, and then toys, and amiibo, and then Lego. Because they own IP.
Yes.
Where is the Caribbean IP? Where's the Jamaican IP? It exists. We might have Lime Tree Lane. We might have Oliver Lodge. We can make our own IP. We have a whole bunch of Miss Lou stories. We got a Nancy. We have dancehall and reggae music.
Yes.
And the Marley family just proved it, that Marley movie, that we do have IP that can generate more than $100 million in revenue. And that was from one film.
Yes.
What happened if they make a TV show? You think Netflix wouldn't want that?
And what would that be worth? Is that 100 million? Is that 500 million?
Yeah, man. I think
really
that if you look at what the Marleys have done,
worth?
what the Marleys have done certainly have shown us the power of IP. Marley headphones, for example, Marley coffee. We in the Caribbean region need to recognize that our culture, as Steve Wilson, Sean Paul's manager, says, is our biggest export, our culture. They come to Jamaica not for simply sun, sea, and sand. They can get that anywhere in the world. They come for our people, our food, our culture. Everybody I talk to that's not Jamaican, that has been to Jamaica. Oh man, I love your people. They're so warm and friendly. Wow, how do we package that?
Yes.
And it can be done. And that is where I look forward to making some announcements with Blue Mahoe Holdings at the Diaspora Conference.
I know I'm super excited.
I am very focused on entertainment. The first business we ever launched was a website that grew to have the largest collection of Caribbean music videos on the web, realvibes.net. That was my brother, right? Real Vibes Entertainment still exists and is a wholly owned subsidiary of Blue Mahoe Holdings. And we will be announcing 2 deals, one in sports, because sports is part of entertainment.
Yes, it's a part of culture as well.
Right, and one in clothing, because they can do merch. So we have 2 deals that we'll announce, and then I'll keep the other one close to my chest. But we are going back into the film world. IP, we need to own IP. We need to be able to tell our stories so we can influence the way we see ourselves and the way the world sees us.
Yes.
It's as simple as that.
Yes. David, I tell you, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. I can tell you this, and I'm saying this even within the context of, I don't know, probably 5,000 people will see this after we're done distributing it. But there are very few people I can have the conversation with around the value of intellectual property. And
Amen.
I'll go as far as to say there is one company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange that has a massive intellectual property asset that is not being used. And I don't even think it's being realized.
We'll talk offline about that
We
company, but
definitely should.
I'm going to leave your viewers with one last thing that nobody has brought up as yet, because you brought up the whole Star Wars versus Star Trek, Marvel versus DC. And of course, that's all Disney now. Disney bought those IP assets and have made a ton of money off of that. So if you looked at it, you already went through our offering memorandum that was qualified by the SEC for Blue Mahoe Capital Inc. What was the name of the largest owner of Blue Mahoe Capital Inc. stock?
Don't tell me. I remember it.
There are two companies listed in there that own stock.
Is it Skywalker?
Skywalker Holdings LLC. Blue Mahoe Holdings actually is the next largest. Skywalker Holdings LLC is my family holding company. And yes, my oldest son's name is Luke.
Yes, I realized. You have three kids.
Yeah, well, Luke, Liam, and Lila. So
yes.
we didn't want to name her Leah. We thought that was a little too close to home, right? With the Star Wars thing. So we're nerds, but we're not that nerdy. But no, it is IP matters that much to me. So when the companies are holding companies, Skywalker Holdings, and that's actually what controls Blue Mahoe Holdings. It controls Blue Mahoe Capital Inc. And we will eventually get more people in the Caribbean to realize the value of IP and then help them to unlock the value of that IP at global scale.
There is a massive opportunity. I mean, you see it better from where you sit, I'm sure. But even I'm able to appreciate that there's a massive opportunity there. David, I want to thank you. And I'm going to ask just one more thing. Yeah, either you can give me your current read, as in what you're currently reading, or your best book recommendation.
I'll give you both.
Thank you. That's better.
So best book recommendation, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. And then currently reading is this book. Oh gosh. So this is Michael Lewis's The New Thing. This book was recommended to me by Robert F. Smith, the richest black man in America. He's worth $9.2 billion, and he said, "This is what I need."
Vista Capital Partners.
Vista Equity. Yeah. So he said, "I need to read." He said, "You probably read What It Takes already."
I have it. I have it.
Yeah. So he said, "David, you probably read What It Takes already." Exactly. So this is what you need to read next. So if he is telling me to read this next, this is what I'm reading next. It's right here on my desk, as you can see. Right here.
I have both. So I have your best recommendation, and you just gave me another book. So I'm actively reading What It Takes by Stephen Schwartzman.
So all right. So reading What It Takes means that you know exactly what they're going to do at Blue Mahoe Capital.
Yes. Yes, I have an idea.
No, you don't have an idea. You know exactly what they're going to build.
Okay.
That is the book that tells you that, and King of Capital tell the same story. We need to build a Blackstone on the Blue Mahoe Capital Inc. So we're going to build a Blackstone. He gave us a recipe. I don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly. And again, that's another theme that we see coming out in terms of just how you execute. And that's why I am so confident in the success that Blue Mahoe Capital and Blue Mahoe Holdings is going to achieve, because I've seen the recipes and I've seen you executing the recipes. It's hard not to be convinced.
Amen. And I'm a great professor, right?
Yes, indeed. Another person that has seen the recipe and executed the recipe.
And executed. So if I fail, boy, I would be a horrible student.
Very. I say that without reservation.
Yeah, man.
So, David, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
I appreciate this, man. I love that we could go from proper high-level investment all the way down to Marvel and Star Wars and my comics collection.
David, thank you so much. And we'll definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, man. Looking forward.
Well, we certainly have to, because we may need to. We may have to come and do another talk about intellectual property, because
happy to do that. Happy to.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thanks
Have
so
an
much,
amazing
Jim.
day.
Same to you.